Hi, I'm Susan from Worldpeacefull, and I thought I'd put this video together for young people. I was thinking of them on my way home on my bike today. I was actually thinking about mental health, but I think this video can be about sort of wider issues for young people anyway, because I think they find themselves in this very confusing world, and I think they are perhaps having more challenges than what we certainly did when we were children. They've got themselves environmental problems. We've got nuclear issues on the planet, and what perceptually can seem like a planet falling apart. The truth is, the world is in its own form of order, and I'm talking about a natural order here. I'm not talking about a human order, which is very much self-oriented, very much self-driven, as if that separated self has no connection to those around it. So for young people listening to this is really to say that things are not always as they seem. And I guess what I can impart to you is a bit about my own experience as an older person. I'm 52 this year. Yes. I've I've worked in most occupations. I've worked in 400 companies. I've worked as a temp, as a secretary. I've stuffed envelopes. I've done everything really. I've worked as a market analyst, worked in on economic projects as well, worked as a clown, worked on peace education, worked in sustainability, worked in shops, been a waitress, lots of things. And I'd encourage you to try lots of things. Don't limit yourself and say, I just want to be an accountant and I want to make lots of money. Forget the money. I mean, all I can say to you is that I made a decision at 28 to not go for the money. And I could have gone off and pursued an economics career, and this was my life. I instead chose to go for experience because I wanted to learn a lot about life. I didn't actually want to just get the money and sit back and think that that was happiness. As it's turned out, I've had a very happy life. I haven't had a lot of money. I could have, and I have had moments where money came in. But for the most part, my joy has had nothing to do with material things or friends even, or even, having some sort of status in life. It's come from following my heart, in actual fact. So I might tell you a little bit about my own story, and if that gives you some inspiration in terms of how you live your life, that's great. I can't tell you how to live your life. You've got to make your own choices on that. What I can say is when I first started out, as I said, I worked in 400 companies as a temp. So I wanted to have a look around all the companies and see what they were like. And that meant having to be on my own. And at first it was a little bit uncomfortable being on my own, eating lunch by myself. I was in Sydney at the time, so I'd moved cities. But Sydney was exciting too, and I made friends there. But essentially I wanted to just try new things. I had to develop confidence too, I remember, like I wasn't a reader. I didn't like reading. So my written word wasn't particularly good. It was okay. I could write and I could read, but at a fairly, average level, I would say. Um, so that experience, I ended up doing university. I would call myself a working class person, but I went to university nonetheless. I was the first in my family. And I did study economics because I'd worked in the business area for, a good while, nearly, I think 9 years I was a temp. The university degree helped me to see that I wasn't unintelligent, even though I wasn't a reader. I didn't actually think I was particularly good at speaking at that time. Maybe in conversation, yes. I used to stutter a little bit because I lacked confidence. So over time, the confidence does come, but it does take many, many years. It wasn't until I was 30 that I actually felt confident within myself. So don't feel bad if you don't feel confident. You're still learning about life, and we're in a society that's probably more negative today than what it was when I was younger. People were a bit more laid back and there weren't as many rules, and many of us were probably, doing our own thing, feeling pretty wild, and I like that. I'm glad I had that as a childhood. I used to go out partying and just like everyone else. But we didn't watch television as much. typically it was movies that were positive ones like Disneyland and really innocent stuff, which was good because it meant we didn't fill our heads with fears. I wasn't fearful. I wasn't scared at all. I used to go out by myself. I was fine. So today you're dealing in a world which has a lot of fear, a lot more than when I was young. And so people are a bit more afraid of each other. When I was in Sydney, I did note that when I was young. I was probably about 20. And I did notice more negativity in a big city. I came from Canberra, which is a small city. People were more country-like, more friendly. So Sydney was a bit of an eye-opener, and maybe Sydney would be the equivalent to what it is today. More negative, people don't smile, and I really noticed that. And I used to smile. I used to get offended a bit at first when people didn't smile back. Today I don't care, thank God. So I did that. I put myself through uni because I really felt I had potential, but I kind of wanted to pursue something that was more to do with politics in the world because I had an interest in what they call macroeconomics, the big picture. I didn't have any clue whether I could do a degree or not, but I thankfully had work which had disciplined me to work 9 to 5. So I treated university like a job. And thankfully, I was already in that pattern, so it wasn't that hard. I had a partner as well at the time, so he sort of settled me down. I didn't have to go out. But I really worked hard, and it was fully hard 3 years, but I got there and I did get the economics degree. I used to ride a motorbike to uni. It's a big bike. It was a 550 CBX Honda. I started on a 125 and worked my way up. The bike was so big I was on tiptoe. I used to wear a leather jacket and helmet. My hair wasn't, you'd call this blonde, but it's actually grey, believe it or not. It just looks blonde, doesn't it? Doesn't look good. Always wanted blonde hair. Now I've got it. I laugh. I had dark hair. Don't know if you can see. You can see a bit of dark in there. That was my colour. My colour was the colour of my eyebrows, maybe a bit darker. I've had to make them darker. Anyway, so I used to ride up to uni on my motorbike. So, as I said, CBX 550. So I was on tiptoe, and then I have to put on the centre stand really fast. If I didn't, and that bike tipped the other way, there's no way I could have picked it up. I used to ride into service stations. There wasn't many women on bikes in those days. So I'd ride into the servo, it's what we call it in the Australian vernacular. And I used to get saluted by men because they saw me with this big bike and they were impressed. And I can remember going into a butcher and the bloke obviously didn't look at me properly. I took my helmet off, but he goes, "Can I help you, sir?" I went, "What? I don't think, did I hear that right?" I don't think I look like a bloke. Translation, a man, just in case you're watching from another country. So I was a little bit unconventional. I also rode a skateboard when I was about 15. I was the first woman on a half pipe. We used to have perspex half pipes. They became bowls later on, which were concrete. So I used to ride up and down this. One of them was a W ramp. So if you can imagine, if you can imagine it like that, that was the shape of the W ramp. So there's a lump in the center. That's what I'm trying to show. Lump in the center. So as you're coming down the board, you jump over and then go back up the other side. Good exercise. As I said, I was the only woman that was doing it in the Southern Hemisphere at the time. I've always believed in trying things, and I never saw it as being a tomboy. I just saw it as, rolling on a board with four wheels. I laugh at when people, sort of pigeonhole women, like it's unladylike to do this or that. It's not. If you want to try something, try it. I mean, more women are doing it now, so I think a lot of young women are probably doing more. Another thing I'll just share with you too, this is more a life thing, is I remember getting hassled by my landlord. He was trying to put the rent up and my partner was overseas at the time, and I used that as a bit of an excuse to say I wanted him to wait, didn't want him to put the rent up. There was no reason for it. Inflation hadn't gone up. He was just wanting more money. But I remember him standing over me, intimidating me. It was like bullying. I found out later he used to beat his wife, so he had no respect for women. But I stood my ground with him and I stared him in the eye. He probably wasn't used to this female giving him lip back. But I decided I was a bit nervous and I thought, no, I'm going to face that. I'm not going to let this bloke intimidate me. Turned out he'd been with the Polish underground, so he was used to doing it. Lucky me. So what I thought was, what's the scariest thing I can do? And I thought, well, a parachute jump. Do a parachute jump. That's scary. It was actually the scariest thing for me. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do it. So I talked to everybody I knew. I talked my way into it because I knew if I told lots of people, I wouldn't back out. Now, my partner came back from overseas and I told him I'm going to shout him. We're going up on a plane and we're going to jump out of a perfectly good plane and see what happens. Anyway, I can remember the night before I was thinking, not only do I want to face fear, I want to overcome it. So that was the intention the night before. Just so that I'm not scared of this landlord, I thought, no, do something scarier because then he will seem like nothing. He'll seem like a walk in the park. That's how I deal with fear. I just do something more frightening. I don't know if that's crazy or not, but it worked for me. So anyway, the next day we go up to 10,000 feet in a little Cessna, little plane, flying over Canberra. It was a nice view. Now it was funny because now I wasn't jumping out alone. I was going tandem, but I remember feeling no fear at all. And I'm thinking, I almost apologized to the guy. I'm sure I'll be scared soon. I wasn't scared at all. I got out on the wing. I don't know if you can see me, but I put my arms out, a bit like Titanic, and I just fell, just fell. And the wind's going like pushing my face up. But you don't feel like you're falling. When you're coming out of a plane and you're coming down, you actually don't feel like you're falling because there's nothing around you to compare to. There's no buildings, no nothing. You're out in the middle of the air. So you just feel the air rushing up. You don't feel yourself falling. So it's a different sensation to what you imagine. It was really neat. I loved it. And I did my arms correctly as the guy had suggested, and I folded my knees back, legs back, so that I wasn't opening my arms too much, which the wind could have done something to my arms. It's kind of holding a nice position. And then he pulled the chute, and I felt being pulled up actually, even though it was slowing me down, but I actually felt it as the sensation of something pulling really hard, pulling me up. But in truth, obviously I was being slowed down. And then we did the panoramic, like he took us around in circles. And I saw my partner and waved at him. It's his first time. Uh, he liked it too, actually. And two of us just sort of circled our way down until we got to the airfield. And in the airfield, they just bring you in on your backside, and voila, fear overcome, mission completed. So I've always been like this. I'm a great believer in facing things. A lot of people are too scared. They go, oh no, I might die. Don't even think about it. In fact, I thought, even coming down, I was thinking, this is the best way to go if you're going to go. It'd be quick. You wouldn't even know when you hit the ground. Look, you're here to live a life. You're not here to be cotton wooled and hiding in a little room because you're too frightened to go outside. What I can definitely say to you is when you go outside, your happy destiny is unavoidable. Now, even those of us I've been attacked and, I've had situations happen, but it hasn't left scars. I actually, one guy who did attack me, it was really interesting because he came to me at a vulnerable moment when I'd had a fight with a friend. This was up in Gold Coast. I was young. I was about 17 or 18, I think. Anyway, he sat with me and he seemed like a nice guy, and it was in the middle of the day, so I felt safe, and he offered to walk me home, and he did. He walked me along the beach. Now, the guy, halfway down this beach, like it was a long way to my place from where we were. However, I decided to run up the beach and catch a taxi because I was getting tired, and then he grabbed me by the legs and pulled me down. Now, I tried every trick in the book, screamed at him, cried, got angry, reasoned, laughed. I did get through to him though, and he stopped. And I decided to talk to him. So we walked on the beach further. He was worried I was going to get the police. So he wasn't being a good boy. However, I was determined to get through to him. So I talked about empathy. How would he feel if he were me in this situation? Turns out he told me his mother had been raped. He also told me he was a virgin, so that was a good thing for me. So I talked and I ended up counselling this guy all the way down the beach. I walked him home. He gave me a kiss on the cheek. And then I had to walk back. And I remember getting back to my place and thinking, who's the victim here? Obviously, I was meant to walk him home and, counsel the guy. I laughed. So what I'm saying is you can turn situations around. You don't have to be a victim. And in actual fact, you can turn situations around. It's not that hard. You just have to talk to the human. There may be situations where they're not going to listen, and it may be your fate to have the experience. Well, do something with that experience. Teach others about it. But it doesn't have to define your whole life, and it doesn't have to ruin your life. You can go on, and we do go on. I've had many, many, many experiences now to date, and I've turned everything into a strength. I've learned from everything, and I'm not hard on myself. If I make mistakes, I make mistakes. If anything, I probably lacked confidence for some time, as I said earlier. But that was just youth. You're growing up and you're finding your way in the world. So coming to the sort of a summary of all of this, what I've done is I've just followed my heart. I haven't gone for the money. I haven't looked to success in the way that I have to be successful. I didn't have to be successful. I wanted to experience life to the fullest. I did travel the world. I lived in England for a couple of years. I went across to Finland, had a friend living there and checked out Finland. It was very close to Russia. It was very interesting. I also travelled around Europe in a caravan. That was great with my mother and stepfather. And I've travelled all around England. I've travelled the United States. I did that when I was 20. So that was good to start off when I was young. It's good to build patterns when you're young. I started a work pattern young, so I was good at getting myself motivated and to some degree structured. I think people need to be structured. My mother thinks we need discipline, but I don't think so. I think we need just structure. You just got to get into a pattern and try and, the discipline around that is just try and work it like a job. If you really want to get something accomplished, you will have to do it to some extent. There's also the matter of going with the flow. I'm also very flexible. When I've worked as a temp, I used to be very flexible. I could pretty much adapt to any environment I was in. I didn't mind taking orders from people, but I am my own person. I used to write poetry between letters that I typed. I knew there was more to me than just being an extension of a typewriter at the time. Hilarious. I was even trained as an economist working in the city of London, in London, which is the banking sector. I used to look at all the guys coming in who had probably less qualifications than me, who were brokers and financial people, who were watching that little line going up and down, demand and supply curves, price curves, quantity curves, all curves, even the girls. They're checking them out too. But they were paid a lot more than me. I was sitting there as a temp getting something like £13 an hour or something ridiculous like that. The tyranny of being a female, I saw definitely the gender imbalance in those days, and hopefully it's improving. I hope so, because I was encouraged to be a secretary, and that was not my vocation. I was not here to be serving men or serving a system in that way. I saw it as service of men because mostly the women were in those support roles, and I didn't agree with that. I saw myself as equal. I always have, and I always will. It's just in my DNA. It's not really educated into me. I've just always seen myself as an equal. And I've been marveling at how I'm seen as a female. It's fascinating. I don't see myself as female. I've been a hippie, I've been a clown. That's the part I didn't get to. Traveled the world as a peace clown as well. And I travelled Australia by myself with a tent. Many things I've done. I went to Russia with Patch Adams, and that only came about because I wrote a letter to him. I'd clowned at a university, and I decided that I was a world peace clown. And I thought, who else is? Did a Google search. That's how I mapped out my career. Wrote to Patch. He was the one that Robin Williams played in the movie, you might remember. Just get it out on a DVD or Google it. You might be able to get Patch Adams. Great film. So he was a clown doctor. He was the one that started clowning in hospitals, and he was the one that discovered that laughter is the best medicine, and it is. Great thing he did. So he actually responded to my letter that I wrote when I threw a photo in of me clowning, because I clowned at Canberra Hospital for fun. No one trained me. I just decided to be an idiot, go into the hospital, and they can't get away because they're sick. So I just go in there and, hello there, darling, how are you? Put on my love glasses, you know, and they're either laughing because they think I'm funny, or they're laughing because they feel sorry for me. But it's good that they're laughing. It doesn't really matter. I had a lot of fun going up and hugging everyone. A few people got scared, but what can I do? It's like, it's not my fault. If you say I'm scared of clowns, like, all I can do is blow a kiss and run away. I remember one nurse in a hospital, she's going, I'm scared of clowns. And I said, turn and face the wall and pretend I'm normal. And then I gave her a back massage, and she liked that. So I think I healed her phobia. I've also done it with a child. Not many children are scared of clowns, but a couple are, because maybe they're just scared of the paint, or you look a bit different. So I usually just juggle and drop my juggling balls, and you know I make out, oh, I can't pick it up. I get the kid to pick it up, and then I'm very shy of them. I make out I'm really shy, and they have to come to me. So there's a bit of psychology in being a clown, and you can play it fun and carefree, and people can play along with you or not. It doesn't matter. I don't care whether they do or not. I'm just there to bring love and joy and peace. And of course, that's what Patch was about too. So for me, going to Russia with him was really wonderful, and having a look at Moscow, it's pretty amazing going into a place like that. All the old box cars. There was a lot more forest, I noticed, from the sky. They hadn't cultivated. I don't know what it'd be like today, because that was back in 2002, and this is 2017. We've turned the corner. So they may well have become more capitalistic now. So those trees may be chopped. This is the nature of the profit motive that we all take for granted in this life. We think price and demand, or supply, that this is the way of it. It hasn't always been the way of it. People have lived Indigenous lives without money. You know, we've seen agriculture as the primary produce, and then we had the Industrial Revolution, which brought in mechanised labour that was linear, where we sort of were rounded up into little factories, and we polluted the environment enormously with all sorts of toxins. It's been very fast paced, the industrial era, and then the IT era came in, where it was supposed to create more leisure time, was the idea behind it. So people would work less, but we ended up working more. And the pays didn't go up. So even from the 1980s, people were working for $20 an hour back then. So here we are in 2017, and I'm noticing that the minimum wage is about $17 an hour here in Australia. I think in the United States, it's probably about $6, $7, $8 an hour. And their prices are going up pretty rapidly. It's why there's more poverty there. And they don't have the welfare system we have here in Australia and in Canada and New Zealand. Yeah, so there's real situations going to occur over there, and in all countries where there's no safety net for when people find themselves without work. The whole system is geared towards work, so that's something to keep in mind. It's all about indebtedness, actually. So you have to buy a house, and that can be, in Australia, you're looking at $500,000 in some cities. That's becoming the norm. People buy brand new cars. Credit enables all of that. But bear in mind that you have to pay it back. Fortunately for me, I never bought a house and I never bought a brand new car. So here I am at 52. I've still got secondhand everything. I live in a converted garage, cheap rent. Never been happier. If I had kids, it might have been different. I don't know. You know, they'd want a backyard, they'd want a house. So I've kind of been blissfully circumventing the norm, and that sort of brings me, back towards where my life is today. Today, I'm still studying. I'm doing early childhood education because I'm very interested in children's development, and who knows, maybe we can teach peace to kids as young as 3 or 4 and 5. Wouldn't that be lovely? Wouldn't it be lovely to give them a foundation in life from which to grow? Wouldn't it be lovely to see the smiling, happy children growing into smiling, happy adults? That would be my dream. So the path I've travelled has certainly not been lucrative from a money perspective, but it's been incredibly rich from an experiential perspective. I've met lots of people in my life. I've now learned to be alone. This is great. This was a big breakthrough for me because I didn't want to be needy for people. I wanted to be able to live alone and be at peace with that, because the peace work is about peace under all circumstances. And what that means is no matter what is happening, to tap into inner peace. A few pearls of wisdom for you. You are the creator of your reality. What you think, if you think it over and over and over and over and over again, you will create your reality. It's a little bit like the red car syndrome, when you say you've got a favorite car that you like and you keep seeing it everywhere. That's how life tends to replicate. The more you focus on something, you draw it to you in some way. It turns up. That's why you might say, I've just been thinking about that so much and it turned up. Well, it's not a mistake. But you have to think a lot about it and you have to feel it. And you have to get emotional about it and then you let it go. That's called the law of attraction. You might want to check it out on the net. Very powerful way of creating in your life. So you don't have to be a victim of life and employers and all the rest of it. You can actually set an intention for what you're wanting and really go for it. I always wanted to teach peace. I may not have taught that much in conventional schools, but I've certainly taught it every day of my life. Even in this message, is a form of teaching peace. So I have actually been a teacher of peace, and I teach myself. So I continuously work at it. Other things I learnt was what you resist persists. So if you fight against something, you bring it to you, you hold it in place. Whatever you focus on, you attract. So it's best to focus on the things you want. Don't focus on the things you don't want. Tend to go for the positive. Look for the good in every situation, even in negative situations. If somebody's being unkind to you or bullying to you, they're in pain of some sort and they're projecting it onto you. Now, what projection is imagine your mind is the projector, and imagine your life is the screen. So what you see in front of you is the screen. It's like looking at this computer, right? So when I can't deal with something and I don't want to look at my own stuff, I might see it in somebody else. That's called projection. So let's say I'm a jealous person, and let's say I look at someone else, I say, oh, they're jealous. Well, that's projection. You're projecting a story onto someone who's innocent. You might have all sorts of prejudices going on within you, that you're looking at other people thinking, oh, she's up herself, and she might not be. She might just be having a cup of tea. We're mostly wrong. That's another thing I learned. When you sit in judgment of people, you're mostly, in fact, always wrong. Judgment is never true because it's negative and it's toxic. And it's actually not good for you spiritually to judge people. Every cell of your body, believe it or not, picks up on whatever you're feeling. So if you're constantly feeling negative, it is going into every cell of your body. So you've got to transform your negative thoughts. We all have negativity, but to know that it's never true. And the reason it's not true is when you're negative, you're actually going against your own inner truth. That's how you know you're actually in a lie, because it doesn't feel good. This is the real deal when it comes to negativity. If you feel happy and loving and joyful and singing, you're actually in alignment with your truth. You're on track. Now, negativity is not a bad thing. It can lead you to happiness in the sense that you go, I don't want that anymore. I'm going to change my life. I've gone down that track. It doesn't work. I fight against this. It doesn't work. People fight for peace. It doesn't work. You just can't fight for it. You've actually got to be it. That's how you manifest anything in your life. You have to be it first. They call it the be to do to have paradigm, from the have to do to be. Like, I have to get a degree in order to be an economist. Well, be an economist, do it, and then have it. And what that's really saying is, for me to be a peace educator, I studied peace. So I was being peace in myself, and I was having peace, and then I was doing it. So be to do to have. So be to have. You got that? That's the real paradigm. So whatever you're wanting, just keep practicing at it. You want to be a great bike rider, then get on the bike. Be it. If you've always wanted to be a singer, start singing. Don't wait for it to be discovered by anyone, because they're not going to discover you unless you get really lucky. But then on a higher level, you would have attracted to you on some level. There's no mistakes in the universe, is what I've learned. And what my job has been within me has been to make peace with where I am. It's also to say that other people are meant to be the way they are, even if they're negative, because that's the reality of it. They are being it. You may not like it, but maybe through their negativity, it's forcing you to look at life in a different way. You might choose something and say, I'm not going to be like that person. So that's a teacher. Teachers come in many forms. They're not always the nice, benevolent, happy teachers. They can be malevolent teachers who are not very kind, who really make you change. Everyone's impacting everyone. Everyone's a teacher. Everyone's a learner. Everyone's playing their part in a big cosmic drama. So the messages I've certainly learned over my life is, enjoy the game of this life. Do not take it too seriously. You can never fail. You can only fail to appreciate that you've expanded your life. We're here to expand our lives, and that means have experiences. Don't get lost in technology and think that that's living. It's not. Get out into the world and actually experience. You're in a physical life, so experience it. There is higher aspects to life, such as the spiritual dimension. It's real. It does exist. If you want to know more about that, you can actually meditate and ask to be shown. Life has a interesting way of turning things up for you. It can be very confirming. You can be thinking about something, and someone comes and confirms it. That's the oneness of the universal life that we're all in. We aren't separated as we believe, even though we're in different physical bodies. We're all connected. And the way to see that that's true is when you've thought of someone and they've rung you. They've tuned in, you're thinking about them, and they knew. Sometimes people intuitively know to go a certain direction. That means they move away from an accident. Is that a mistake? No, it's not. Everything is meant to be. So there's no point fearing life. You're going to go through it anyway. And at the end of it, I did near death research. And certainly what I learned was that we go on. So even death is not an end either, in my world view. You're all welcome to have your own and investigate it for yourself. But I've come to the conclusion now that happy destiny is unavoidable. And we have a choice in life. You can choose to live in fear, or you can choose to live in love. I'm choosing to live in love because it makes me happy. I'm choosing to teach peace because I think it's a good thing to teach in a world that's not at peace. I'm also learning peace. I'm not fully there yet. I still cry when I believe my negative thoughts, but I'm wise enough now to know that I'm in a lie when I start crying. And yes, I've had moments where I want to end it. I go, oh, I don't want to be here. Luckily, I just go through it, and that gives me empathy for anyone else that might feel they don't want to be here. Get on your bike and start riding. Good mental health comes from exercise. Good food. Food, very important. Don't eat all the junk. Not only will it put on weight, you'll put on weight, but the junk is actually not good for your energy levels, and depression can often come from low energy. Staying up too late, yes, you've got to go to bed earlier. I know it's hard. I totally sympathize because I'm a 1 a.m. in the morning person. What is it now? It's actually nearly midnight now for me. Look how wide awake I am. So I totally get that you want to stay up, but you are going to have to live in balance if you want a happy life. Do what you love as frequently as possible. Feel the fear and do it anyway, but just don't do anything violent. Don't hurt anyone. If you act on impulse, do it in a really positive way. Be really mindful of how you communicate. Don't say negative things to people. Just say someone really upset you and they've made you really angry. You contact them and you say, when you said this, I felt that. And what I want you to do is this. That will make me feel happier. The work of Byron Katie is an excellent tool if you want to get rid of the negative thinking. If you get rid of your negative thoughts, in truth, the thoughts leave you when you no longer energize those thoughts through fear. It just lets go. You just get over it. You move on. If you want to live a life that's free, you have to start to question your negative thinking. And when you do, your life will take on a completely different complexion. You will see the world very differently. You won't be in fear anymore. You'll hear all the negative media and you'll know that it's not true because it's dividing, it's not uniting. Things do happen. When I say not true, I'm not saying those events didn't occur, but what I'm saying is that the media focuses on negative events. And if we're looking at the big picture, the world is not a negative place. I traveled the world and I found majority of people very, very nice. It's only a very small minority that are not nice, and that's because they believe negative thoughts about themselves. Someone's either instilled it in their mind, they've been educated that way, or it's groupthink in some way. Once you step out of the negativity, you'll start to feel freedom and you'll feel the empowerment to actually get on with what it is you feel called to do in your life. Everyone has a calling, no one is a failure. Very important to know this. Your purpose could even just be saying hello to someone. Your purpose could be breathing. You know, that in itself is success. You're here on this planet and it's an incredible planet. If you get out and have a look around, you'll see that Mother Nature is very wise. And if you look into biology, you'll see the planet is extremely complicated. Yet it has a harmony built into it through its interconnectedness. Everything is working together. And yet a consciousness permeates the whole natural system. That's why you feel alive when you go out into nature. There's actually a pulse, an aliveness out there. And we get grounded when we go to nature and we get away from technology. Technology disconnects you from yourself. Being by yourself and meditating reconnects you to the oneness that you truly are with all of life. And you're going to feel more and more positive the more you do this, the more you get away from conditioning and fear-based communication. Get right away from it. It won't serve you. It's good to get informed, but get informed through a university or get informed through a library. Learn and check your references. Don't just go with what anybody says on the internet. Check to see if they're a credible source or they're possibly propaganda. You've got to be careful what you put into your consciousness because it will influence where your life goes. For me personally, I'm very positive. I'm very, very happy. I believe in courage and facing everything. Don't be scared. If you are scared, just do it anyway. And as I'll just repeat, don't do anything that hurts anyone. Do no harm. Take the peaceful path through life, and I'll guarantee you, you'll be very happy that you did. You'll have no guilt. I don't have any guilt because I never set out to hurt anyone. And if I have hurt anyone who's listening to this, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Forgive me. Ask for forgiveness. And all that really is you're letting yourself, you're also forgiving yourself because a lot of things we hold on to is often we're not wanting to forgive our beautiful self. We make mistakes and it's okay. So, with that, my beautiful, beautiful people, I have great hope for young people on this planet. I think you're all beautiful and you inspire me when I meet you. I love your freshness and your enthusiasm and your excitement about life and you getting out there and having a good time. Go for it. Don't drink too much. I did that. So maybe it's pot calling the kettle black. Um, just be mindful with alcohol. It can lead you down a path. I had some crazy times and fun times with it, but you can have fun. I certainly did as a clown. It was more fun than drinking, that's for sure, because I was playing and mucking around. And that's really all people drink for, is to have the sensation of freedom and fun like I had as a clown. So just skip the drinking and become a clown or a jester. or something, just be colourful. So with that, I'm going to leave you in peace. I send you love, peace, joy, happiness, and know that you're meant to be here. And the world and the universe would never be the same without you. You are equal to everyone. You are as beautiful as anyone. And you have gifts and talents that we're all waiting to see. So find what makes your heart sing and start singing. And that's good mental health. That's peace. And that will most definitely set a path for you where your happy destiny is unavoidable. And no matter who you are, your happy destiny is unavoidable. Always remember that. Much love. Bye.